Okay. One. The code is ready and there's one. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadadi Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Patakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Mancha kalpatarupascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha namo mahavadanyaya krishna prema pradayate krishnaya krishna chaitanyamne gauratvishe namaha panchatattvatmakam krishnam bhaktarupa swarupakam bhaktavataram bhaktakyam namami bhaktashaktikam हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyata. Hare Krishna. So it's like Ishani ji has also joined. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for joining. So now we will go to our bhajan for today. So we have started the spiritual month of Purushottam. So this is a very auspicious month, and anything spiritual we do is multiplied by a million times. So of all the spiritual month, Kartik month is very potent spiritually. That's when Krishna did the Damodar Leela. But this Purushottam month, which comes once in 3 years in the lunar cycle, is considered to be 1,000 times even more than Kartik month. So it is a very, very special month to have do any devotional service. And so hence this is called the Purushottam month. I see Meenakshi ji has joined. Hare Krishna, Meenakshi ji, welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for joining. So Meenakshi ji has joined. Her grandfather passed away a couple days back, and she and Ishwar have still joined this call. So all glories to you and prayers for the departed soul. Okay. So let's sing this bhajan to glorify the Supreme Lord Purushottam. And this is called Yugalashtakam. It's glorifying Srimati Radharani and Krishna. Krishna Prema Mai Radha Radha Prema Mayo Hari Jivanena Dhane Nityam Radha Krishna Gatir Mama Krishnasya dravinam Radha, Radha yadravinam Hari, Jivanena dhane nityam, Radha Krishna gatir mama, Krishna prema mai Radha, Radha pranamayo hari, Jivanena dhane nityam, Radha Krishna gatir mama, Krishna dravamai Radha, Radha dravamayo hari, Jivanena dhane nityam, Radha Krishna gatir mama, Krishna gehe stita Radha, Radha gehe stito hari, Jivanena dhane nityam, Radha Krishna gatir mama, Krishna chitta stita Radha, Radha chitta stito hari, Jivanena dhane nityam, Radha Krishna gatir mama, Nilambara dhara Radha, Pitambara dharo hari, Jivanena dhane nityam, Radha Krishna gatir mama, Vrindavaneshwari Radha, Krishna Vrindavaneshwara, Jivanena dhane nityam, Radha Krishna gatir mama. Hare Krishna. So we can all start reading the translation. So who wants to go first today?
Would you like to go first?
Okay. Both Nitinji and Santoshji are there? Okay. Both of you can go 1 and 2. And then,
can I read the third one?
yes. So
Can
Ishwarji
I read the fourth one?
Yes. So Ishwarji, Meenakshi ji, then Ishani ji can read number 5. Number 6, Radha Chaitra ji. And number 7, Ayana. And number 8 is the odd man out, so I can read. Okay.
Radha is made of pure love for Krishna, and Hari is made of pure love of Radha. Life's greatest wealth is Radha and Krishna, my eternal shelter.
Very nice, Nitinji.
Radha is the treasure of Krishna. Hari is the treasure of Radha. Life's greatest wealth is Radha and Krishna, my eternal shelter.
Very good. Thank you, Santoshji.
Radha pervades the life force of Krishna and Hari pervades the life force of Radha. Life's greatest wealth is Radha and Krishna, my eternal shelter.
Very good, Ishwarji. Thank you so much.
Radha is totally melted with Krishna, and Hari is totally melted with Radha. Life's greatest wealth is Radha and Krishna, my eternal shelter.
Thank you. Very nice, Meenakshi. Ishani ji? Oh, it looks like Ishani ji's audio is not working. Ishani ji, can you hear us? Would you be able to read number 5?
No.
Okay. So I will read that. Radha is situated in the body of Krishna and Hari is situated in the body of Radha. Life's greatest wealth is Radha and Krishna, my eternal shelter. Okay, Radha Chaitra ji.
Radha is fixed in the heart of Krishna and Hari is fixed in the heart of Radha. Life's greatest wealth is Radha and Krishna, my eternal shelter.
Very good. Nicely read. Ayana.
Radha wears cloth of blue color, and Hari wears cloth of yellow color. Life's greatest wealth is Radha and Krishna, my eternal shelter.
Thank you, Ayana. Okay, number 8. Radha is the mistress of Vrindavan and Krishna is the master of Vrindavan. Life's greatest wealth is Radha and Krishna, my eternal shelter. So this bhajan is written by Jiva Goswami, who is one of the 6 Goswamis who took instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and established all the wonderful temples of Vrindavan. They found the deities which were buried in the ground and established many, many temples that are still there today in Vrindavan. And this bhajan is especially recommended to be sung during Purushottam month because it is describing their lordships, Krishna and Radharani, and they are the greatest shelter and the protection for all of us. Okay, so we finished our bhajan section for today, and now we'll go to our topic, Srimad Bhagavatam. And before we start our class, we have to invoke the auspiciousness to learn about Srimad Bhagavatam by taking all respects from Srimad Bhagavatam. Who would like to read this?
I would like to read the Prabhuji.
Yes, Nitinji, please.
I offer my obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Narayanam Namaskrite Naram Chaya Naradam Devam Sarvastam Vaisya Tatam Jayam Mudriyat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the many means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Sri Vasudeva, the author. Srimattam Siva Karta Krishna, Punya Sarvan Kirtana, Hirti Antasito, Hai Abradani, Vidoni Smit Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who's Pramata in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotees, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are themselves virtuous and properly heard and chanted. Astapayasa Abhadashu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhavati Tutam Saham Bhaktar Bhakti Niriti. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of God, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact.
Hari Bol, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, so happy that all of you are attending the classes on Bhagavatam regularly. So all glories to you and thank you for your association so that we can all discuss the wonderful topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of nectar, and it's coming from the different prayers of the devotees and the questions and answer sessions between the conversations between devotees. So we completed chapters 1 through 4 in the 3rd canto. So there are 3. We have already reached the 3rd section of Srimad Bhagavatam. We finished the first 2 cantos, which are like the introduction and the summary of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we discussed how the first 2 cantos we completed are like the lotus feet of the Lord, and now we are at the thighs of the Lord with the third canto. So, so where we left off last week, if anybody remembers, it is the conversation between Vidura and Uddhava. So Vidura meets Uddhava, and Uddhava by the Ganges, by the rivers of by the river of Yamuna, and they were discussing all these wonderful aspects of bhakti and how Krishna had already left the material world and went back to his holy dham. And then Vidura had so many more questions from Uddhava and wanted to understand the instructions Krishna gave him. But Uddhava, being much younger than Vidura, didn't feel very comfortable discussing very high topics with Vidura and instructing him. And he said, you have to, why don't you go to Maitreya Rishi in Haridwar and hear from him? Because Maitreya Rishi was present when Krishna actually gave his final instructions to Uddhava. So Uddhava was actually given the service to go to Badrinath and do service there, because Krishna during his pastimes never went to the foothills of the Himalayas and the Badrinath area. So he wanted his representative Uddhava to go there. So Uddhava had that service in mind, and he said, Vidurji, why don't you go and meet Maitreya, the great rishi, who was also present when Krishna was instructing Uddhava in Prabhasa, where Krishna disappeared from this world by his Moshala Leela, where he actually had a hunter shoot an arrow, and all those pastimes happened at that point. So Uddhava was there, and then Maitreya Rishi came there, and he was listening to Krishna's instructions to Uddhava. So Uddhava is telling Vidura, why don't you go to Maitreya Rishi and hear from him and get answers to all your questions. So that's where we start our discussion for today. So Vidura talks with Maitreya. This is chapter 5. So Vidura is already a very, very perfect devotee. If you remember, Vidura, even when Krishna was visiting Hastinapur, he visited Vidura, even though Duryodhana had prepared a big banquet for him, because Vidura is a very great devotee of Krishna. He's always thinking of Krishna and always, chanting his names and always following the righteous path of devotional service. But we know Duryodhana is not such a person. He's always envious, and he's always looking for himself, getting more riches and hurting others even to get his riches. So to such a person, even though he made such a huge feast for Krishna, he didn't go there. And he just went to Vidura's house, where Vidura wasn't prepared to even have such a great, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Krishna just, ate a banana skin from them. Again, all those aspects are not mentioned in Bhagavatam, but the first text of chapter 5 mentions that Vidura is a great devotee of Krishna, and I was just bringing up an example. So, then Vidura starts asking questions, because everybody in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when we see the doubts they have is how to, come out of suffering and distress. And then Vidura is asking to Maitreya, give us some direction, like how to get real happiness. So in this world, everybody is seeking happiness. The problem is they're looking for happiness in the wrong places. Like some go to the bar and drink. Some go on very, very long vacations to different places. but they have to come back, and then their suffering is not reducing, right? So this is a very, very pertinent question, not only for Vidura, but for all of us. Vidurji is asking Maitreya Rishi, how can we get true happiness? And then Vidurji is also glorifying Maitreya Rishi, that such learned persons, they are not keeping this knowledge to themselves. They are always trying to impart it to others so that they can also take advantage of these nuggets of wisdom that can improve their life. So Vidurji is asking for giving him instructions on transcendental devotional service of the Lord, and then he's asking questions of who are the Purusha avatars, what are the forms of the Lord's energies, what are the different Leela avatars. He's asking what are the conditions of life in different planets, and about the different living creatures there. He says he doesn't like any of these political or social topics that's always, finding fault with others or trying to prove that one person is better than the other. So he is done with all that. Right now, Vidurji is just focusing on the essence, and he's asking for only Krishna Katha and what is most important to him before he leaves his body. So, and he says, he also mentions the power of Krishna Katha, that Krishna Katha can really, give happiness to the soul and remove distress. So he's focusing on spiritual questions rather than any material questions. So, and then he mentions that Vyasadeva was writing Mahabharata so that through the different social and political aspects, slowly people who like the stories can slowly come to spiritual life or devotional service. So we see that a lot of stories in Mahabharata that that talks about politics, that talks about the different situations caused by each person's character, and all that is slowly bringing a person to Krishna, or to bringing a person to bhakti. So he knows Sri Mahabharata, though Vyasadeva wrote it, he's part of Mahabharata. So yeah, now he's asking, he wants to hear more Krishna Katha and answers to these very, very important questions. So that's so he's just very, very passionate to hear more and more about spiritual aspects, not any material aspects. And he says that those who are not willing to hear about Krishna, they are in a very pitiable state, because whatever knowledge they get, it's going to be temporary, and they're going to lose it when they leave their body. But any spiritual aspects one learns, it's taken with the soul, carries it to the next body or to higher planet. So that is permanent. So he wants to focus on these spiritual topics. So now we see how you can approach a conversation, right, between two people. So when you want to ask something to someone, you just don't go there and just pose a question right away. Granted that both of you have time, you first slowly introduce yourself and come to the topic slowly. So we can learn so many things about relationships and interaction from these wonderful devotees who are interacting with each other. First, they are glorifying the person who they want to get the answer from, and then they're trying to say why they are coming up with these questions. And Viduraji is saying why he wants to know the answers for these. So it's kind of building up and providing the other person the reason to answer in a good way, right? So we can learn about these wonderful interactions. So he's asking for the essence of all topics, not just, just speculation or imaginations. He just wants to go to the root of all these problems, not temporary solutions. And then, in order to give some direction to Maitreya Rishi to start with his answers, he asks, "Can you explain about the Purusharthas?" Purusharthas are nothing but Krishna's expansion to create this universe. So Krishna expands into so his different forms, and then those forms are then creating the universes. So Krishna is always in a playful mood, and he's with his devotees in Goloka Vrindavan, but he expands himself to forms like the Vishnu forms, so that they can do the activities of creation and getting the ingredients for creation. So he's also mentioning all these answers he gets is going to benefit not only him but the whole world. And then Maitreya Rishi. So before Maitreya Rishi answers, he's honoring Vidura and expresses gratitude for these wonderful questions. And he says how Vidura was born of Vyasdev. Again. So we know the story of Vidura being born. So just like Pandu and Dhritarashtra, when there was no, when the princesses couldn't have a husband because Bhishma couldn't marry them. Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika, the three princesses came, and then because Vichitra Virya, he had passed away, and so there couldn't be any sons at that point. So Vyasdev came to bless these two princesses with sons. So one of their son is Vidura, and Vidura is actually Yamaraj, and we had discussed the story many classes back, how there is a Muni called Mandavya Muni who cursed Yamaraj. So Yamaraj is the person who gives different suffering to all these souls that leave their body, but they never took up spiritual life. They were always focused on themselves. They go to Yamaraj, right? And Yamaraj is the one who says, oh, okay, you go to this hellish planet, you go to Kumpipa, you go to Atala, Vittala, Sutala, Padala, and you got to go suffer here. So all those decisions are made by Yamaraj, right? So Yamaraj in his previous life, Yamaraj actually Mandavya Rishi had left his body and came to Yamaraj, and Mandavya Rishi was a very good Rishi, and he didn't do any bad things, except when in his childhood he had poked an ant, and because of that, the king at that time thought that when some robbers robbed and then came to Mandavya Rishi's house, they thought Mandavya Rishi was helping the robbers, and Mandavya Rishi had to die a very horrible death by, like, they put them in a spear to die, like they make them sit on a pointed spear, and then slowly the spear gets into the body. It's a very torturous death. So when Mandavya Rishi left his body and came to Yamaraj, he asked, why did you give me such a very bad punishment? And then Yamaraj said, oh, you did this in your childhood. And then Mandavya Rishi got really mad and said, oh, that's that's not a reason to give me such a bad punishment because I poked an ant in my youth. So I didn't know what is right or wrong, and why are you giving me such a harsh punishment? So I curse you that you have to leave your post of Yamaraj and you have to be born on the earth, and that's how Vidura was born. Yeah, again, those important, those all those backstories are not mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's just said that due to the curse of Mandavya Rishi, Yamaraj came as Vidura. This Maitreya Rishi is telling Vidura when he's asking these questions. And Mandavya Rishi, Maitreya Rishi is saying he happened to come when the Lord was talking to Uddhava, just probably because the Lord wanted to give these instructions to Vidura when he's coming here. And then he starts on the discussion of how the Lord created. So first there is the four Purusha avatars, right? So there is Karanodakashayi Vishnu, who's Mahavishnu, who's the expansion of Krishna, and he's lying on the Karana ocean, and then from him sprouts many universes. From each pore of his skin comes out universes. When he exhales, all these universes come into being, and then when he inhales, all these universes are destroyed and goes into him. It's an unmanifested state. So all these are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, if we go with science today, science is good for many things to improve our life, to make things easier for us. But about creation, science cannot give a good explanation. Science says that everything came from Big Bang, right? So there was a big explosion, and now with the new telescope coming up, they are finding that Big Bang is probably a wrong theory, because what they were thinking is the furthest universes that are the universe is expanding and expanding, and the further the light coming from the furthest universes would show us the very primitive state of the universe during Big Bang. And then all that is now being proved wrong, even by science. Another group of people who are looking at this pictures from this telescope. So the thing is, the answers about creation we can only get from God or like scriptures, because only a person who does not having a beginning or end can create a universe that is temporary. So everywhere we see like planets are created and destroyed. So everything in this material world has a beginning and an end. And all of us and all of these things we see has to come from something. Did everything come from something, or did everything come from nothing? So logically, we should understand that there is a creator behind this. It is not happening automatically, and this creator is what we get all these explanations about in these scriptures that the Lord spoke to his devotees, and it's captured in this wonderful Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's explained in so much detail, like what energy of the Lord creates each of these different ingredients required to form this world we see around us. So it's explained how initially only sound existed, and from sound came space, and from space the sense of touch happened, and then the air, like gases or element was formed, gaseous elements were formed, and then finally the material or earth elements were formed. All this is explained in so much detail. We are not going to go into all those details, but the essence is to understand that everything is coming from Krishna with his external energy or material energy is creating this universe. And with Mahavishnu, from so Mahavishnu or Karanodakashai Vishnu, when he creates each bubble or each universe from each pore of his skin, he expands again and forms a form of Vishnu called Garbhodakashai Vishnu, who is in each of these universes. And from that Garbhodakashai Vishnu in each universe, from the navel in order to create the material elements and the planets within that universe, a lotus sprouts out, and from that lotus comes Brahma. All that is explained in so much detail. And so usually we hear that, oh, Brahma is the creator, but actually, Krishna is the primary creator. And the one very good explanation that is given is all these transformation, right? How from air comes fire, and then fire, water, and then water to earth. All those transformation we can understand by saying just this is the analogy given. So if a painter has a palette, so he has a red, blue, white, green, yellow, and all these different colors. And so we can think of those as the ingredients that the Lord creates. And now to create light green, he just takes green and white and then mixes them, and he gets light green. Or like the primary and secondary colors, we know how they are formed. So the point is, like, you take red and yellow and mix it, you get orange, right? So it's all like all the primary elements and secondary elements are similarly. There needs to be a painter to mix one element with the other. So even the mixing happens by the Lord's intention, or when Garbhodakashai Vishnu looks at these ingredients, they mix with each other. So there is that energy of mixing required. It's also called the Bibrat Shakti of the Lord. Bibrat Shakti is what is mixing the elements to create more and more elements from the primary elements. So everything is coming from the Lord and by the Lord's supervision, and nothing is happening independent of the Lord, is what we can understand. And then for each of these, the sky, water, air, space, all of these have one devata. He gives the role to a person, a devata or a demigod, to take care of that. And they are praying to the Lord just to show that, they're not the supreme. Like Indra is the Lord of rain. He's not the supreme personality of Godhead. He's just a devata or a demigod. And so in Bhagavatam, we are seeing their prayers to the Lord, that they are totally surrendered to the Lord's lotus feet, and the Lord is the source of all knowledge, and the Lord is the one giving them the power to function these different elements in the way they function. And in their prayers, they mention all these good aspects for us to learn. They're saying, all the holy places, holy men, having good association with holy people, that all vanquishes means it removes all sinful reactions. And then they say Krishna is the one who reveals knowledge and detachment. So all remembrance and courage comes from Krishna. He mentioned who are the qualified people, who are the demigods are mentioning who are qualified or unqualified, who just lives a life for themselves and doesn't care about God, or unqualified people. Qualified people who have taken the shelter of Lord and does everything for the Lord's service. And they are mentioning how drinking the nectar of Krishna Katha or hearing Krishna Katha is the best activity. because it removes all distress. Because once you hear Krishna Katha and understand Srimad Bhagavatam, you understand that you are not this material body. You are a soul which does not born or dies. So anything that happens to the body will not affect you so much. And if you see, we are like 24 hours of time, we are just focused on our body. But when we get into bhakti yoga, we are focused on the activities of the soul. And pure devotee, they're 24/7. They're thinking about the soul, or their true self, and not their misidentification as the body and doing only activities required for the body. So it's also mentioned that the people who seek knowledge are called gyanis. So they still have to go through pain, because they all the bhaktas, they are serving the Lord, and any issues that come, they know they're serving the Lord, which is gives the highest pleasure. Gyanis, they try to understand, they just focus on the knowledge, and they don't love God, or they just want to get more and more knowledge. Those they still go through a lot of pain, and it is said that these devatas are mentioning that only bhaktas can get over suffering. So this is a conversation within a conversation, like Maitreya Rishi is explained to Vidura about the conversations and the prayers that the devatas had with the Supreme Lord. So all this we know what these prayers are. They're glorifying the Lord. And then Maitreya Rishi goes into like what is the gigantic universal form of Virat Purusha, Virat Rupa, or Vishwarupa, that Arjuna was shown by Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, right? So there's more explanation of what is this Virat Purusha. It's a sum total of all the material energy of the Lord. So Virat Purusha is actually the external energy of the Lord. Now Krishna, with the two-handed form playing the flute, he's fully internal energy, which is the spiritual energy. And this Virat Purusha is formed like all the planets, all the devatas, their bodies, everything, the cycle of birth, death, old age, disease, everything is captured in this Vishwarupa form of the Lord. And there's good explanation given about this Virat Purusha. So one thing you want to understand is the Virat Purusha is still the external energy that has all these principles of how this universe should function. And if you remember from Bhagavad Gita discussion, Arjuna was not happy seeing this huge form where everybody was dying and going into the mouth of the Virat Purusha, and all the devatas. He just wanted to pray and have a loving relationship with the two-handed form of Krishna, which is the spiritual form. And so the differentiation between Virat Purusha is all explained so well in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, it's just it's mentioned Krishna showed the Virat Purusha or Vishwarupa to Arjuna, and in Bhagavatam you have all these details of how is this Virat Purusha formed. It's actually an expansion of the Garbhodakashaya Vishnu that allows all the physical phenomenon of the world to happen in the right way. Okay, so Maitreya Rishi is very humble. He explains about this great form of the Lord, and then he also says he cannot understand the Lord fully, because nobody can understand. So if you think about the whole universe, we are such a minute dust particle like the Earth, because if you even science is saying, like, when the spaceship goes away from Earth and the universe is so big, and when it looks back at Earth, it's just a tiny particle of dust in this whole big universe. And that's just one universe, right? So nobody can fully understand the Lord. But Maitreya Rishi is saying that even though I don't fully understand the Lord, one has to, speak about the Lord, glorify the Lord, and that's the best approach to get some understanding and allow you to, go back home, back to Godhead. Okay, so now we come to the 7th chapter. So 5, 6 we just completed now, and then Vidura is asking more questions. So this is more in-depth questions, like more like philosophical questions that he explained about creation. Now the question is, this soul, we are the soul, we are not the body, we are not temporary, we are permanent. There's no birth and death for the soul. All that is great, and like we are part and parcel of Krishna. So we are the small, minute soul, and it is spiritual, right? The soul is spiritual. Then how come the soul is going through a lot of pain and suffering in this world? We see our relatives are dying. We see people who are very rich suddenly become very poor. We see a lot of diseases like COVID, that people who are very healthy suddenly, they get this disease and they die, or they have permanent disabilities. So much of suffering in this world. So this is a question from Vidura. If the soul is spiritual and it is above all miseries and it's part of Krishna, then why is it suffering? And how can it suffer? So anybody knows the answer to that? Okay, Ayana wants to try.
So, one time we were all with Krishna, and so we all thought that we could be much more happier on our own. So he gave us a chance, being the merciful God he is, and he made this world, but it had some suffering because we had to learn our ways and know that everything is happier with Krishna by our side.
Yeah. So that you're explaining why the Lord created the world and why are we here. The answer that Maitreya Rishi gave was like, why is the soul feeling the suffering? So if we are totally spiritual, then why are we feeling so much distress when we come to this world, when we go through all these pains? And the answer that Maitreya Rishi gives is very important for all of us. So we should always be happy, but we are going through suffering only because we think we are the body. So the misconception of thinking, the identity crisis that we have, that we think we are this body, we are young now, we'll get old later. All those thinking that I am this body is the root cause of all suffering. So if you understand that you are not this body, you are the soul, then you won't have the suffering. Now I'm saying this, but how much do I internalize that, right? So if I'm totally thinking that, hey, this body that I have is just like a dress I'm wearing, if I understand that and internalize that and realize that, then I won't have suffering. So that's the answer that Maitreya Rishi gives. And then he also gives some examples, like go to the next slide. I think it's there in the next slide. Yeah. So this is the example he gives. So see this picture where if a person's head got chopped off for some reason, he will not live, right? Like the body cannot function. But in a dream, a person can see that even after his head is chopped off, he's talking very nicely. So he compares the dream to our material world, where we are thinking this impossible thing is happening, because we are just in a dream. So he's comparing the material world, thinking that, like, if we think that we are in this dream and this is possible and we are going through the suffering, but if we understand that we are the soul, we won't suffer. Another thing is, if you look at the another example he gives is the reflection of the moon on the water. So there are ripples in the water, and the moon seems like fragmented and it's moving up and down, but actually the moon is not doing that. But if you look at the reflection, you feel that the moon is going through these waves on the water. So similarly, it is just, understanding that something else is true makes us go through the suffering. So that's the example that Maitreya Rishi answers Vidura. And then he also says that the Lord is not affected by his energy, because it's just like the prime minister of the country, when he comes to the prison to see how the prisoners are doing, he's not affected by the rules of the prison. He doesn't have to wear the clothes of the prisoners. So similarly, the Lord is not affected by the rules of the material world, because he created the prison for a particular purpose. But when he comes to the world, he's not affected by any of these rules of this world, and he doesn't have to go through suffering. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. So and the explanation is, like, how do you get to a state where you know that you're not this body but you're the soul? The only way is hearing Krishna Katha and performing bhakti, and through that you'll slowly get understand that you're not this body. Okay. So in the interest of time, I'm going to quickly glance through some of these aspects, and then we'll go to the Kahoot quiz. So Vidura asks more questions about Mahavishnu, like Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu, and how does he form the Virat Purusha, how the different planets are formed. So in the 8th chapter, this is explained. So, and Maitreya Rishi is telling his parampara, how he heard about the creation and Sanat Kumara's, the creation and this important details about the creation. He learned from Sankarshan is an expansion of Krishna, Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Sankarshana is also coming from that. And then from the Sankarshana, Sanat Kumaras heard about this. And then Sankyayana Muni heard from Sanat Kumaras. Then Parashara Muni and Brahaspati heard from, or was a disciple of Sankyayana Muni. And then Maitreya Rishi heard about this. So it's just saying how we should hear from a bona fide source, which can be traced back to Krishna, because any Tom, Dick, and Harry on the road can also come up with a theory of Lord and his creation, but we shouldn't listen to anybody who is not bona fide. So Maitreya Rishi is just telling about like how he heard about this, and this is something we already spoke about. Like he's talking about how Brahma sprouts from the lotus that comes out of the navel of the Lord, and then how Brahma was trying to understand his purpose, and he actually went down the lotus stem. So you see here, he's coming down, and he still couldn't find an end to it, and he didn't understand what he had to do. So he understood by his self-searching, he cannot find the answers of what his purpose is. So he then meditates on the Lord, and he heard that sound tapa coming, and then he just understands that it means he has to meditate. And when he meditated and served the Lord, he got all the answers he needed, and his purpose was revealed. And initially, earlier he couldn't see anything from the lotus, but he was able to see like Mahavishnu lying, and Mahavishnu's eyes were closed. This is Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, right? So he's seeing the form of the Lord, the serpent head, and the Lord's face, and the nice garment, yellow garment he's wearing. All that he sees. So from top of the lotus, he sees this darshan of the Lord, and the Lord. Then he has some good prayers for the Lord. He starts the wonderful prayers, and then the Lord is very happy with his prayers, and he gives the instruction to Brahma. So Brahma, when he sees the Lord reciprocating to him, he says, "Oh Lord, please give me, please make me understand what I have to do, and don't let me get deviated. Don't let me, get into a false ego that, oh, I'm creating, so I shouldn't become proud of myself. I should always be serving." All this, he says. And the Lord says, yes, I'm very happy with your prayers, and I'm going to give you all the power to do your secondary creation. And and more details about that we'll cover in the next class in chapter 10. So that mentions about the different creations. So now let's go into the Kahoot quiz. So if you can start your device and scan this QR code, you should be able to get into Kahoot. So the pin is 5305617 in case you're typing it in. So Ishani ji, Nitin ji, Hare Krishna, Santosh ji, all of you have joined. Ishwar ji, Meenakshi ji, are you able to join? Radha Chaitra ji?
Yes, Prabhuji, we are joining.
Okay. So there are 18 questions. We'll go through those quickly. It took a little more time. Hopefully we'll complete by 10:35, 10:40 US time, Central Time. Okay, Meenakshi ji has joined. Ishwar ji, are you joining?
Yes.
Yes. So all of you have joined. So can I go ahead and start?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. So the first question, these are the topics we discussed today, chapters 5 through 9. Okay. Who did Vidura meet at Haridwar banks of Ganga for spiritual instruction? Uddhava, Maitreya, Vyasa, Sukadeva. Remember the topics we discussed and who were having the conversation. Yes, Maitreya is the right answer. Uddhava, we discussed in the previous chapter where, he mentioned about the Lord leaving the world, and then he referred Vidura to Maitreya. So that's in Haridwar. Okay, so Nitin ji is in first place. Hare Krishna, Ishwar ji, Meenakshi ji, Ishani ji. Okay, second question. Why did Vidura question Maitreya how to remove distress and suffering? Everyone is pursuing happiness. Fruitive activities does not bring satisfaction or detachment. Worldly activities only bringing suffering, all of the above. Yes, all of the above is the right answer because Vidura is asking for all of us, and everyone is everyone is seeking happiness. We all do something so that we can be happy. And then, but whatever we do, there is some suffering or unhappiness there. And then, so he's asking for all of us, what can bring true happiness? Okay, so Nitinji is now in first place, then Ishwarji, Meenakshiji, Hare Krishna, Santoshji. Okay, why did Vidura say he was interested only in topics of Krishna? Not satisfied by societal status, topics of Krishna can cut the bondage. Hearing of Krishna removes attachment, all of the above. Yes, again, all of the above is the right answer.
Prabhuji, actually the second option is not right.
Sorry, what? Let me can go back. What was the second option again?
Hearing the Krishna Katha can cut the bond between each other.
Cut bondage. Bondage
Yeah.
means you're shackled, or bondage means there's no freedom. So actually, Krishna Katha will cut the bondage that you have with the material world. So bondage doesn't mean just your relationship will get cut. Bondage means you are like just think that you are suffering, you're bound to your circumstances. So that is bondage. At least that's the meaning here that we are.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay. Why does Vidura pity the materialists and impersonalists? Their lives are spoiled in rituals and speculation. They don't hear Krishna Katha. All of the above, none of the above. Yeah. Again, all of the above is the right answer. By the curse of whom was Yamaraj born as Vidura? Vyasa, Narada, Sutta, Mandavya. Yes, Mandavya Rishi. When Mandavya Rishi suffered a horrible death, he went to Yamaraj and cursed him. Okay. Which Purusha Avatara or Vishnu form of Krishna impregnates material nature with three modes, jivas, living entities? Kshirodakashayi, Garbhodakashayi, Karanodakashayi, all of the above. So we talked about the ingredients and how material nature is getting all the jivas, and the creation of the three modes of material nature, sattva, rajas, tamas. All those ingredients are created by the Karnodakashayi or Mahavishnu form of the Lord. Okay, true or false? Krishna's lotus feet is achievable by those who are always thinking of themselves, I and mine. That's false, because if we are thinking about Krishna, he'll reveal himself to us. If you're always thinking selfishly, no. Okay, how can one achieve knowledge, renunciation, and go to Vaikuntha Loka? Hearing Krishna Katha, performing devotional activities, all of the above, none of the above. Yes, like all of you are doing, if you're hearing Krishna Katha, and then if you internalize it and do work based on that, you will go back to Krishna, to Vaikuntha Loka. Okay, Gyanis go through pain even though they have knowledge, but pure bhaktas don't have suffering. True or false? Yes, this is true. Because Gyanis, they just have the knowledge, but they don't have love for the Lord, but they still have to go through some suffering. Okay, the 23 elements mixed together by which energy of the Lord? Vibrat or cohesion energy, Sandhini, eternal energy, Sambit, knowledge energy, Haladini, pleasure energy. So we mentioned, like the painter, somebody has to come mix it. And that is this energy of the Lord that mixes the elements to form what we see in this material world. Yes, it's called the Vibrat Sakti, or the cohesive energy. Yeah, some of these questions are difficult, but this is why we do the Kahoot, so we can learn. The Virat Rupa, universal form of the Lord, is material external energy, spiritual internal energy, all of the above, none of the above. Yes, the Virat Purusha is material energy of the Lord. It's a sum total of all the material universes. So it's the external energy. Okay, why does the soul suffer even though it is spiritual? Misidentification itself as the body, miseries caused due to self, miseries caused due to devatas, miseries caused due to others. Yes, the identity issue is the biggest problem, and that's what's causing the suffering. Good job. Most of you got that right. Okay, 13th question. What can remove misconception of being the body? Jnana, bhakti, exercise, imagination. Yes, bhakti to Krishna or devotional service will remove all misconception that you are the body. Okay, 14th question. How are all material miseries removed? Sense gratification, contemplating on sense gratification, fruitive activities. Senses are used to serve Krishna. Yes, serving the Lord removes all miseries. Okay, who did Maitreya Rishi hear the Srimad Bhagavatam from? Suta Goswami, Sukadeva Goswami, Parashara, and Brahaspati Brahma. So we mentioned a different parampara that Maitreya Rishi has. Yes, it's coming from Sankarshan, and then the immediate gurus were Parashara and Brahaspati. Maitreya Rishi. Okay, Brahma was able to understand his purpose by personal endeavor or self-research. So was Brahma able to find answers to his questions by himself? By doing experiments or doing things by himself? Or did he get some help? Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. The answer is actually false. And so sorry about that. I marked it wrong. So Brahma was not able to actually understand his purpose by research. He got the mercy of the Lord, and he was praying to get the purpose, not by his own thing. So sorry about that wrong answer. Okay, Brahma surrendered to the personal form of the Lord and not the impersonal Brahman. So did Brahma see the energy of the Lord? Did he saw the personality of the Lord? Yeah. So the personal form of the Lord is what Brahma surrendered to. What were the prayers of Brahma that the Lord answered? Empower him and protect from false ego, save him from deviation. Oh Lord, please wake up. Yes, it's actually all of the above, because hearing the prayers, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu opened his eyes and answered him. Okay, last question for today. Brahma's prayers, penance, and firm faith are mercy of the Lord. True or false? Yes. So this is another way of saying, is it like yourself activities that gives him the power to create? And so even all of us, like we are here discussing about Krishna is actually mercy of Krishna. Like by ourselves, we wouldn't have the mind or the desire to spend an hour on a holiday discussing about these spiritual aspects. And we should thank the Lord for giving us the mind to spend this time for him and understanding him. So I thank all of you for having that wonderful consciousness. So let's see who the third place goes to. Ishwarji, second place goes to Nitinji, and first place goes to Santoshi. So, and then fourth place goes to Hare Krishna, and fifth place goes to Radha Chaitraji. All of you are winners, and one of the questions was wrong, which may have skewed some of the positions. So don't worry about the position. It's about learning together, and all of you are helping me to learn a lot. So thank you. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarupascha kripa sindhu pevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Dandavat pranam.